But I just don't think you're going to see some massive. Like, I don't think it's going to be 70%.
What is up, guys? We are live. It is Sunday night, and we have got another top 50 list for everybody to tune into. This is a continuation of a list I did a couple of weeks ago. Horrified.com had their top 50 UK horror movies of all time. This is a website I kind of like looked into. They do really good stuff. So if you like want intelligent journalism about the horror genre, it's specifically based, on UK horror. Horrified.com is definitely worth checking out. What I didn't realize, what they've done a follow-up list for movies that didn't quite fall into the top 50 UK horror movies of all time, which is obviously 100 to 51. So I thought I'd give this a countdown tonight because there's quite a few movies in there which I thought, I was surprised didn't make the top 50. Because I remember, like, when I did the list a couple of weeks ago, I was just couldn't get my head around the fact that Eden Lake wasn't in the top 50. I didn't look too deeply into this list. I just had a quick look at the 51 to 60. So Eden Lake makes an appearance there. So I just thought, I'll just definitely cover this list as well. Because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of movies. What's up, Anthony? Hush is an underrated British horror. Never mentioned. I've championed this movie a couple of times now on social media. That Hush is definitely an underrated British horror movie. It gets over. It kind of, unfortunately, with like some of these British horror movies, Hush is a great movie, but people think when they think of Hush, they think of that 2016, 2017 movie. And it's a bit similar with Creep as well. The 2004 movie set in the London Underground. When people mention Creep, they tend to think of the like 2012, 2013, whatever it is, found footage film and its sequel, which is a great movie, by the way. But I mean, I do love the 2004 version. It's just that when people talk about Creep, quite often they're mentioning the American version and not the UK version. But anyway, let's just quickly jump in the chat. Anyway, see who's on. We got obviously Dan's in the chat. What's up, man? Dan is live at 2 a.m. UK time. I think that's like 9 p.m. whatever time zone you're in, Eastern Standard, I think. We're talking to Jasmine St. Clair, and Jasmine St. Clair is a legend of two businesses that I've taken an interest in over the years. I won't say any more than that. So definitely check that out. We've got Cliff in the chat. What's up, man? The Wicker twat better make this note there, Cliff. This was the Wicker Man was this. So that's just to confirm. This is a list of 51 to 100 of the greatest British horror movies of all time. The 50 to number 1 was a couple of weeks ago, and The Wicker Man was number 1. So this is like the also runs, like honourable mentions. But there's a lot of good stuff in this list. I mean, like I said, I only looked at the first 10 because I want to go in a little bit blind. But in the first 10 movies, from like 60 to 70 or 50 to 60, there's some good stuff there. But yeah, Wicker Man on this website is number one UK horror movie of all time. So yes, mention that. Heartless is one I see being on here. Heartless, I don't know that movie. Attack the Block, yeah, I like Attack the Block. Attack the Block, I know is on this list. I don't like it as much as some people. I do like it. I think Attack the Block is solid, but I don't think it's as. I mean, I don't like it as much as a lot of people like in the UK. Jasmine is in your neck of the woods right now. Okay, like literally. Can I just go out and find her? And I actually thought Jasmine St. Clair was British. I actually, when I saw the when you were doing the interview, I googled it because I had, for some reason, I idea that she was British. And she's American, obviously, but maybe there's another porn star slash wrestler with a similar name. I don't know. But anyway, let's just jump into this list anyway, because yeah, this is going to be, so this is basically the list I did from a couple of weeks ago. This is the same website, so it's a very respectable website. They very, you know, that it's not trash. You know, it's a lot. You know, a lot of safe sort of like picks on this list. Or I assume there will be, certainly from 50 to 60. What I was looking at. So we're not going to go from 100 to 51. It goes from 51 down to 100. It's not the top 50 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just another like 50 movies. If you've not seen, definitely add to a watch list. I know I've done it with some of the films that were on the number 50 to number 1. I watched 5 or 6 movies this week, which I've never seen before, which, you know, 3 or 4 was really, really, really good movies. A couple which I wasn't that keen on, but, you know, that's just the way it is. So let's just hang on a minute. Share screen. There we go. Share. So we should now have number 1. Oh, so yeah. So we are going backwards. So number 100 is a movie by Neil Jordan from 2012 called Byzantium. I don't know anything about this film. Again, this is going to be the stream from a couple of weeks ago. There was probably about 2/3 of the movies I've not seen because they were quite, I don't know. I mean, yeah, when it comes to, even though I am British, a lot of the British horror movies, which are regarded as classics, I've not seen. I reckon I might have seen a few more from 100 to 51 and maybe 50 to number 1, but I have not seen Byzantium. And like what I'll do is I will go through 10 films, go back to the chat, and then so on. But, you know, talk about the films, crop up. If you've seen them, did you like them? If you didn't like them, say why. You know, and just recommend them. If you think it's a film that needs to be seen, then definitely recommend it. Number 99, I have seen this movie from back in the day, a long time ago. 10 Millington Place. It's a true story about John Reginald Christie, who I think this guy was known as the acid bath killer. From what I remember, he murdered women and he put them to dispose of the bodies. He placed them in a bath of acid. I think that's the same guy. It's the main cat. It's Jesus Christ. Who's the main character? It's a very well. It's this guy here. I can't remember who it is, but yeah, 10 Millington Place is from what I remember is a really solid movie. I just remember it's about with the acid bath killer. 98, The Fearless Vampire Killers, Roman Polanski, 1967. I've not seen this film. It doesn't even ring a bell, the name. I know, like, when I think of Roman Polanski, I know, like, there's movies of his I've not seen, but the name still, you know, Repulsion, for instance, I've not seen it, but I know the name. I know Repulsion, Roman Polanski, that I know that. This, though, The Fearless Vampire Killers, no idea. Never heard of this film. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, let me know. Number 97, The Beast Must Die, 1974. I've heard of this film. I've not seen it. I don't know. So there's a connection to Agatha Christie in this film by the looks of it. But it looks interesting, I've got to say. 1974, though, that's definitely. There's also a reference to Howling 5 as well. But yeah, definitely what to check out. Number 96, Ghost Story from 1974. Yeah, not seen this. Never heard of it. Yeah, there's going to be quite a few obscure movies on this list that, you know, some people in the chat are going to be probably well aware of. I'm not. Just like Ghost Story. No, I don't know this film. It was filmed in India apparently. But yeah, unlike a couple of weeks ago, the number 1 to number 50, you get a little synopsis about the movie. They don't do this time, so I'm just clutching at straws with like even the plot of these films if I've not seen them. Clockwork Orange 95. Now this is a low placing. Now, obviously, I've seen Clockwork Orange. I think most people have seen Clockwork Orange. Now, is this a horror film? I wouldn't say it is in any stretch, by any stretch of the imagination. It's maybe elements of it, like what you would class as horrific. But I mean, if this was a list of like greatest British movies of all time, this would probably feature higher. Maybe because it's on a list of horror movies. It's why it's so low down, and they felt they had to include it. But I wouldn't really class this as a horror movie. And if you are going to put it on the list, then would it not be higher than 95? So that's a bit of a strange one. 94, The Sorcerers from 1967, directed by Michael Reeves. Never heard of this film. Boris Karloff's in it though. So 93, we got The Skull from 1965. Peter Cushing is in this movie. Again, I've never heard of this. I'm just going to be flying through this list because if the next 40 films are like the first 10, I'm going to be like, what? But it's all good homework for me because I can just tick these off, add them to my IMDb list and like slowly tick them off because I need educating on like old school UK horror movies big time. So 92, Quatermass 2. Now, I did watch Quatermass in the Pit a couple of days ago, the 1967 movie. I liked it. I wasn't overly over. I mean, I thought it was a solid movie. I think it appears at like number 40 in the list I did a couple of weeks ago in all-time UK horror movies. It's okay. I mean, it's not as good as a couple of the other old school UK horror movies I've seen in the last couple of weeks, but it was okay. But maybe I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed by it. Number 91, we've got The Reptile from 1966. Looks interesting just by that cover art or whatever it is, but directed by John Gilling. Never heard of this film, but I'm intrigued just looking at that shot there. It looks fascinating. So let's just go back into the chat. This one has been on this for a couple of years. I'm not sure which one Cliff's referring to there, but Samantha Morton, which I'm not quite sure what movie we're talking about there. That's the thing. When I leave the chat for a while, people making comments, and I'm not quite sure what movie they're relating to. But Dan, I really like Fearless Vampire Killers. I revisit that more than Rosemary's Baby. I mean, I'm not a biggest fan of Rosemary's Baby. The first time I watched that movie, I was kind of like, I was expecting more, and then obviously I revisited that film, and I've watched it 3 times now, and it just, I don't know, leaves me cold. Rosemary's Baby. I don't know what. Maybe I don't know. It's just before I haven't said that, even though it's a 60s movie. There are a lot of 60s movies I do really like, so I can't really put it down to that. Maybe it's just not my thing. Beast Must Die is a fun one. I believe it's a Favours of the Lawn. Yeah, I mean, that's a film I've not seen, but it's always been on the radar to watch, and I've never got round to it. He says they stopped filming Place, and if you work out because it's very different. Yeah. The Skull is really fun. Watch it over Halloween. I'll definitely check it out. What's up, Sean? they're going to go hit a bunch of Hammers and Amicus titles they missed. Reptile is another fun watch. It doesn't get so much. Definitely, I've never heard of this film. I wonder how many Mike has seen. A lot already. Sean, it's like 80% in the first 10 movies I've not seen. So it's going to carry on like that. If I recall, Vampire Lovers and Vampire 6 were big snubbed last time. So let's go back into the. Okay, so number 90. You've got The Satanic Rites of Dracula, another movie I've not seen, directed by Alan Gibson, 1973. It's Cushion and Lee again. There's just too many Dracula movies, man. I can't keep up. I've seen I've probably seen one Frankenstein movie and one Dracula movie in my entire life, and there's all these different movies, and I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, is this like a direct sequel to another movie, or is this just its own thing? I don't know. I have no idea. Number 89, we've got Dr. Jekyll. I've definitely never heard of this film. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde from 1971, directed by Roy Ward Baker. Yeah, no idea. Never heard of this film. I didn't know Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde was even a thing. I mean, I've heard of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, obviously, but number 88, we have got The Vampire Lovers. Now, this does ring a bell. This is Roy Ward Baker again, who directed Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. So he was on a bit of a hot streak in the early 70s. Vampire Lovers. This does ring a bell, but I've not seen it. I will just make that clear. Again, early 70s, very early 70s. Again, if you have seen this film, let me know. This is what the whole point of the stream is. Educate me on films I have not seen. Number 87, The House That Dripped Blood. Now, this I've not seen, but I am aware of the title. That's clearly Peter Cushing in the lead role. I'm guessing it's a Hammer movie. I like the title. And this is a movie that does ring a bell for me, although I've never seen it. Or at least I don't remember watching it. But that sounds like my sort of movie. 86, The Awakening, 2011. Now this is a new movie. But so I'm surprised I've never heard of it, because most UK movies, 2000 onwards, I'm kind of aware of. But I don't know this film. So if anybody has seen The Awakening in 2011, let me know. Is it because this one's totally passed me by. 85, we've got PayPal. But PayPal's a classic. Bennett Rose, 1988. I've talked about this film on a few different streams. Fantastic movie. I watched this film on TV back in the very late 80s, maybe about 1990. And as a kid, it scared the hell out of me. Looking back, it's certainly not, by modern standards, a terrifying movie. But there's just imagery. There's the imagery in the movie. The house on the hill. There's a couple of jump scares which come out of nowhere. It's just a really haunting movie. So even going back now, even though the fear's gone as an adult, but it's still like quite a haunting movie, and it's so well told. It's well acted. I mean, it does look like fairly. It looks like a cheap movie now. I mean, it was never like a big budget movie in any way, shape, or form. But if you can look past the slight, cheapness of the movie, because this was made on a shoestring budget. If you can look past that and just look at the way it's written and the way it was acted, I mean, it is a fantastic film. Number 84, Full Circle. Oh, okay. So, Lorne's favorite horror movie of all time, The Haunting of Julia, aka Full Circle, a movie I still haven't seen. That does need to be rectified. 1977, Mia Farrow. So I can't offer much on this film because because I've not seen it. But I know that obviously it has got a reputation as being, a classic. But the fact that it's 84, I don't think Lauren would be very happy with that one. And like we were talking in the last stream about whether it regarded as a British movie. Clearly, it has been regarded as a British movie. So, number 83, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, 1969. Yeah, I've not seen this. This is not a movie I'm even aware of. I mean, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I didn't know we even had a Frankenstein movie with that title. I don't know. This must be one of the very last sort of Frankenstein movies before they did that horrible Robert De Niro remake in the 90s, because they weren't making Frankenstein movies in the 70s, surely. And they surely weren't making them in the 80s. So was this the last sort of like traditional Frankenstein movie? By Hammer, at least. Number 82, we got The Curse of the Werewolf from 61, Terence Fisher. I've not seen this movie. This does ring a bell, though. This title does ring a bell. So I am aware of this film, at least, but I've not seen it. Yeah, a year after Psycho and Peep and Tom as well. So, I mean, when was the first werewolf movie? Obviously, it's not this, but like, obviously, werewolves became quite a big deal in like the sort of early 80s with like Wolford and Werewolf in London and Howling, but this is obviously 20 years previous. So what is the first werewolf movie? Is it? I guess we're going back to like the 20s, 30s, maybe, because it's like an old concept, isn't it? The idea of a werewolf. 81, X the Unknown, 1956. No idea about this. This is. I mean, this movie is 67 years old. I have no idea what this movie is even about. If anybody see, there's not even a synopsis for it, so I'd have to go after the stream, go and look it up. But there's nothing about this film at all. So it looks. I like that shot though. It looks like World War II-ish. But let's just go back into the chat. Dan says City of the Dead from 1960 is another one I'm pretty sure wasn't on the other list. Anthony says Tales from the Crypt by Amicus is a great anthology, should be on the list. That was on the previous stream, Anthony. You're talking about the 72 film with Joan Collins, that was on the previous stream. What's up, Ben? Satanic Rites, is that the one where Dracula is defeated by a thorn bush? It could be. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it did. Oh wow, Doctor isn't a classic, but it's fun. Vampire Lovers is a must. Dan approves of that one. Vampire Lovers gave me a boner. House That Drip Blood is another one spot on Halloween watch list. Definitely, I'll make a note of that. Paper House needs a proper Blu-ray. Yes, absolutely, definitely does. I assume they just weren't counting Haunting of Judith. That should be on the main list. But going by the way Lorne talks about that film, definitely. The Hammer Frankenstein movies are all worth watching. The Werewolf from 1913, but it's a lost film. So yeah, the whole Werewolf, and if you go back, I suppose you go into books and literature, you're going to be going back with, in terms of werewolves, you're going to be going back like probably a couple of 100 years, maybe. Hammer made 2 Frankenstein movies in the 70s, last one being 74. White Wolf and some very early examples. So let's jump back into it. Let's go to number 80. We've got Don't Open Till Christmas. Yeah, this is that really sort of like, I know Piz has done a video about this movie. It's it's one of those killer Santa movies from the early 80s with that'll be Edward Purdom. I've never seen this film. I kind of, I don't know, I've always been put off by it, but I know obviously it's set in London in the early 80s, and I think the setting would probably take me out the movie a little bit, because it looks, maybe for an American watching this movie, may get a bit more enjoyment out of it with the concept of it being a UK movie. But some of these like lower budget like UK films kind of take me out of the movie a little bit when they're slightly too low budget. I kind of just find like floor after floor after floor with films like this. I will get round. I probably will. I'll try and check this out, around Christmas time and just to see what all the fuss is about. But yeah, it's never one that's really sort of like appealed to me. 79, we got Under the Shadow, 2016. Don't know if this. I thought this was an Iranian film or like an Iraqi movie. But director Babak and Vari is certainly. Maybe this is a British funded movie, which is I just didn't have this down as a UK movie. I don't know much about it, but I vaguely remember it coming out. But yeah, number 78, we've got Frightmare from 1974. Pete Walker, a cannibalistic family drama. Devastating study of mental illness and boundless love. Ridiculous on paper, it comes alive through unique direction and tremendous performances. The ending will haunt you. Never heard of this film. Yeah, can't add anything to it. Number 77, In Fabric from Peter Strickland, 2018. I've not seen this film either. The title does ring a bell, because it's obviously a modern movie. It's only 5 years ago, but I've not seen it. Yeah, there's not even a synopsis to even discuss it. Number 76, we've got Vampires from 1974. Jose Ramon Laraz. I've not seen this movie either. This was this list is going to be, this stream's going to be even quicker than the stream from a couple of weeks ago, because I haven't seen any of these fucking movies. Just like, what? And this one doesn't even like sound familiar. It's Vampire spelled with a Y instead of an I. I don't know why. Maybe is it Spanish influence? I'm not sure. Number 75, we have got The Vault of Horror. Now, this does sound familiar, but I've not seen it. Surprise, surprise. 1973, another Roy Ward Baker movie. God, this guy was fucking killing it in the early 70s. Jesus Christ. He was just fucking knocking him out the park. 1975, The Vault of Horror. Definitely, I've heard of this film. I've not seen it. Just another one to add to the list, because I like that shot as well. It looks interesting. 1974, Island of Terror. Now, Terence Fisher. Now, another movie that's Peter Cushing again. Heard of it, not seen it. That title sounds interesting. I mean, if it's on an island and there's terror, then I'm definitely on board for that. 73, Ghost Stories. I watched this about 6 months ago. Martin Freeman movie. It's good, but I thought it's a little bit overrated. I mean, it's like an anthology story. If you've not seen it, it's in the sort of like creep show style, or Tales from the Crypt. It's that sort of movie. But I like the first, short story, however you want to call it. It's not great. I mean, I liked it, but I think it's slightly overrated. I mean, I remember it getting like really good reviews when it came out, and coming to it like 5 years down the line, I was just like, it's okay. I wouldn't go overboard. Number 72, we've got Vampire Circus from 1972, Robert Young. Never heard of this film. I'm guessing it's a circus and there's vampires, but nothing, no description, anything. So if you've seen Vampire Circus, obviously, Dan, let me know, because I'm sure you've seen it. 1970, number 71, And Sooner Darkness, 1970, Robert for West. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Never heard of this film. No idea what this film is. this list, man, this can't, fair play to the people who compiled this list, because this list is, it's pretty damn obscure in my book. I'm no expert, but I thought I knew slightly more about UK horror movies than this. This is just way beyond me. I'm like, never heard of this film. Never heard of it. And I reckon if you went up to 99% of people in Britain and asked what this film is, you just get a blank expression. So let's just go back into the chat. Dan says, as far as feature length Werewolf for London 35, I believe. Okay. Oh, so that's the first movie that we can actually get hold of, which actually features werewolves. I love Don't Open Till Christmas. Got the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray. Yeah, it's a nice Blu-ray. In Fabric isn't going to be for everyone. I like it out. I did watch God is a Bullet tonight, Dan, on your recommendation. Really liked it. I thought it was maybe 20 minutes too long. I think it could have been condensed into like a 1 hour 40 movie. But definitely a lot of Green Room vibes from that film. Some sort of got a bit of a Mad Max vibe from it as well. Also a little bit about the movie. I don't know whether the movie meant to be set in like the late 2000s rather than current day, because a flip phone was used, but I didn't really see anybody using 2022 2023 technology. It seemed to be very much of the late 2000s. But yeah, definitely a very another movie. It reminded me of it. Got a bit of a Blue Ruin vibe as well. But Micah Monroe as well. Micah Monroe's just like, she's like modern day scream queen. She's just, everything she does is just, I mean, this isn't technically a horror movie, but she just nails it every time. Everything she does, man, fucking so good. Oh, wow. I thought Vampires Made the Faces. That's an essential erotic vampire flick. The old horror is the Terry Thomas. Old horror is another good Amicus trilogy. Tension as well. Make me feel. I'll definitely try and do that. I'll make a note of that. Alec says it is. Yeah, it is definitely a little overrated. Yeah, and Anthony is sort of like probably on the same page as well. See Vampire Circus. That had an inferior remake with Carl Urban. God, it's a must for revenge flick fans. It's definitely worth checking out. It's in the 90s, is it? Really? All right. I thought it was I was getting a late 2000. I thought, yeah, I mean, yeah, this makes sense. The flip phone I thought was 2000s, but you're probably right. And plus, obviously, with it being set in the US, you're going to be more probably honed in on what the cars and everything else. What's up, Jamie? How you doing tonight? Oh, the book is in as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, looks like Jamie Foxx dodged God's. Yeah, Jamie Foxx is on the mend. Happily. Yeah, Jamie Foxx was in a pretty bad place briefly. We've got Jess in the chat. What's up, Jess? Shout out chat. Let's jump back into the list. Are we getting towards the tail end now? We're going towards. Does anybody know this film, Answer in the Darkness, by the way? Because this is just, baffles me, this film, because has anybody seen this film? Number 70, we've got Taste the Blood of Dracula, 1970, Peter Sasdy. You know what? I've not seen this film. Surprise, surprise. Is that Christopher Lee? It looks like Christopher Lee. When did Christopher Lee stop doing Dracula movies? Was it the early 70s? Number 69, we've got The Appointment, 1981. I've not seen this movie. Like a Dream, you might have, after a chip a bill of Don't Not Now, Jewel, and The Italian Job. directed by Lindsay C. Vickers. God, man, the amount of films I need to check out, man. Nothing else to go on, just a shot of the back of a woman's head. But I will definitely make a note of that one as well. Number 68, we've got Ennis Men. Now, I've got issues with this film. This is a new movie, came out last year, or this year, technically, I suppose. In terms of cinematography, glorious. It totally it's meant to be set in 1973, and it totally captures that look. Utterly, absolutely down to a T. I mean, it looks like it was just, it looks like it was buried at the bottom of the sea in 1973 and it was being dug up and put into a movie player in 2023. It just looks like it's like something that was unearthed from like something that was made 50 years ago. But in terms of plot, it's pretty paper thin, and it's more of an experience than a movie you go into and just really take in for like any sort of, I mean, it's very much of like, you make of it what you will. I will say that, somebody may take something from the film, another person may take something completely different from the film. But like I say, it's more about the experience than the storytelling, is how I would describe it. But it does look fantastic. And the setting for the movie is just wonderful because, yeah, I mean, Cornwall is just such a crazy place and an amazing place to film a horror movie. It just captures just so many wonderful things about England, and just, yeah. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, it's just such a UK film. It couldn't be anywhere else, this film, but it does. If you go into it expecting more than what, I would say, just don't go into it without too many expectations, and just let it just wash over you, and just leave it at that. Because I think if you go into it with expecting too much, you might leave disappointed. Number 67, we've got Life Force. Oh, we got the classic Life Force, Toby Hooper's 1985 magnum opus, which, I mean, this was just such a crazy movie. Like, if you look at Toby Hooper's career from up until this point, if you transfer like Toby Hooper's career, I imagine he started his career out in like the early 2000s, and then this movie came out in 2015. This would probably be like some sort of like crazy $200 million budget movie. As it is, it was the 80s, so it didn't really pan out like that. But it's a crazy film, and the fact that he got to make this film is just nuts. Yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely an experience. And, a fair bit of nudity as well. But yeah, it's yeah, I would definitely wouldn't class it. I think 67 is the right spot for this film. I definitely wouldn't have it in the top 50, but it definitely deserves to be in a top 100 movies of UK horror movies. But it's a crazy film. 66, we've got Prey, 1977. Not seen this movie. Beguilingly weird. Norman J. Warren's Prey is unlikely to make the top 10, but it is such a mad ride that everyone should watch it at least once. A man-eating dog-faced alien ends up as a housemate for a lesbian couple, and all manner of hijinks ensue. It is quite unlike any other horror film, and weirdly a lot like D.H. Lawrence. Okay, that sounds interesting. If anybody's seen Prey, let me know. A man-eating dog-faced alien ends up as a housemate for a lesbian couple. If that isn't a forward-thinking, woke 2023 movie, I don't know what it is. That sounds like it'd fit in right perfectly. Yeah, that's a 2023 movie right now. 65, we've got Night of the Eagle. Sidney Hayes. Never seen this film. If anybody's seen this film, let me know. God almighty, there's some movies. I mean, I thought this was going to be less obscure than the first 50, and this is actually more obscure. Number 64, we've got The Abominable Snowman. Now, this is on my watch list. I know it's written by Nigel Neal, who's just a legend. Oh, he's connected to the Quatermass series. This is it's obviously it's about it's set during it's made in the 1950s. It's connected to like the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti, and the search for it. This I don't know how I've never got around to watching this film. It's been like on my watch list for like 4 years, and I always like put it off and just watch something more modern. And even though this feels like the sort of movie that is like kind of like it's almost like a comfort blanket, those one of those movies you can. I suppose what, I should probably wait until it's the winter, nice cold day, cold outside, maybe even snowing. Wrap up warm, put the duvet over me, and put this film on, because this is not the sort of film to watch in the middle of the summer. But yeah, it is at least a film I am aware of, which is nice to know. Number 63, we've got Possum from 2018. Now, this is interesting because I've not seen this film. I had no awareness of it. Now, Christian Hannah Horror did a video about 2-3 months ago and it was literally just about most disturbing imagery in horror movies. And he used this as an example. And I think he might have even used it in the thumbnail. And that caught my attention because it was like really, really quite a disturbing image. And it's this, this face here, like in a bed, I think it is. I think it's in a bed, like staring forward at looking at the camera. And I thought, and he made the point about this, making a case for like why this is so disturbing. And he was on the mark, like it really was. It really struck with me. And I was like, holy shit, that's really fucked up. And I checked it out. I didn't watch the movie. I added it to a watch list. But yeah, I mean, it is definitely something that's really, really disturbing about that image. Not this one so much, although that is quite freaky. But the image that he posted, that really got me interested. But yeah, Possum from 2018 is again it's a film that I would have had no awareness of if it wasn't for Christian mentioning it, but I definitely need to check it out. 62, Dead Man's Shoes. In my opinion, one of the greatest British movies of all time. I've raved about this movie time and time again. When I was a member of Piz's, movie club Patreon tier thing, I recommended this, and obviously he watched it, he loved it. This movie is just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, violent. I wouldn't really regard it as a horror movie. It's more of definitely a revenge thriller, but certainly horror elements. Gas mask, people getting brutally killed whilst wearing gas mask. If you've not seen this film, this movie is just the shit, man. Paddy Considine is just fucking awesome in this film. He just takes up the screen in every shot. And Gary Stretch as well as the antagonist, who is not a professional actor. He was like just a former boxer. He does a great job as as the antagonist, Sonny. It's just like it's small town England, and the sort of the monotony of like small town England, and what goes on, and it's a really bleak, depressing film. But I mean, I can't speak highly about this film enough. Just one of the greatest British movies ever made. And if they are going to class this as a horror movie, then why isn't it in the top 10? This is just absolutely ridiculous. 62 is just a joke. But But yeah, Dead Man's Shoes is just a stone cold classic. 61, we've got The Mummy from 1959, Terence Fisher. I am aware of this film. I've not seen it. Obviously, it's The Mummy. I mean, I'm guessing this is obviously The Mummy, right? So the Brendan Fraser version, but was released, 40, 50 years later. I've not seen this version, but obviously I'm guessing it's Christopher Lee again. I'm assuming it's a Hammer. Yeah, it's Hammer. It's a Hammer movie. But Terence Fisher. I think Dan mentioned Terence Fisher, so definitely need to try and check that out. Number 60. Okay, let's go back to the comments. Everyone's just saying hello to each other. Christopher Lee hated playing Dracula. Christopher Lee was quite a snob. He really was. I mean, Christopher Lee was born into privilege. If anybody doesn't know Christopher Lee's background, he was born in like central London to an aristocratic family. He wasn't, so he grew up experiencing the finer things in life. And obviously, even though he got into acting, I can well imagine that he would have regarded doing these sort of movies as beneath him. Even though for most people it would have been an honor to be like a world-renowned actor, but because of his upbringing, he actually, I think, was slightly embarrassed by a lot of the roles he played. I know he loved playing Saruman in Lord of the Rings because obviously he grew up reading those books over and over again. But I think for a majority of the roles he played, he did have a slight, he did feel they were beneath him. Jess says Taste the Blood of Dracula. It wasn't his best, but it's not bad. Dan says I like Ennis Men or Mine. Is it Ennis Mine? But again, it isn't for everyone. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Sean's been busy getting sorting for his brother's wedding. Not many people stream. It has, yeah. I mean, the whole streaming thing, like, obviously there's a few people in the chat now. Like, obviously, Dan obviously streams religiously and always has done. But obviously, from like back in the day of like COVID and like obviously Jess and Steak and you had Hayden and Jay, and streaming was just like a thing that was going on. I mean, this is really before I sort of got into it more, going back more to 2020, where I was really just doing Piz's Patreon streams, and I really only got into it in 2021. But certainly like late 2020, early 21. Yeah, that was. I've talked about this numerous times. That was a great time in the our little community. Anyway, people were just streaming constantly because people were just a lot of people weren't really working, or weren't working from home, and so even like people. I mean, Piz especially. I mean, even like Piz, he was just like always doing streams like during COVID, and he's like sort of dial down a little bit on the streams. He tends to just stream like once every week, once every couple of weeks now. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of people streaming all the time. Just people that maybe you're not subscribed to. I mean, I'm subscribed to a lot of people, but there's very few people I can actually watch on a stream, sadly. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, if I don't click with that person as a streamer, I can't kind of tend to check out. And a lot of the time, I mean, I used to love the old school like streams with Jay and Jess and people like that, and Chris / Home Video. It was just quite relaxed, and anything went. The conversation could just go on a random, just go to random places which you'd never expect, and I really like that. I mean, even though I try and do like more of a structured stream, when I do like a stream where it's kind of based around news, I do like when I'm watching other people's streams, I do like those random streams where it just goes anywhere, rather than just, well, we've got to focus on this, got to focus on that. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it's like, yeah, I mean, even I struggle to like get the sort of sometimes like streaming tonight. Like I was like, freaking hell, I'm in work in the morning. I'm like, I've got to be up at like 7 a.m. and it's like now 20 to 1. I'm like, when I schedule it, I'm like, right, I've scheduled it now. I've got to stick by it. I mean, I quite often schedule a stream, 2 weeks previous, and I'll just cancel it, a few days later. But if I schedule a stream that day, I know I've got to stick by it because there's people who've like notified and they're gonna want to watch. But it is hard. I mean, it is hard. Sometimes it's like it should be like the best thing in the world. I love doing it. And once the camera's on and once I'm talking and I'm going, I love it. But the hour or two before, if I'm getting tired, it's like there's nothing I want to do less. It's weird. And I don't know if anybody else feels that. It's just like an hour before, I don't want to do it. But then as soon as I click live and like the comments start showing up and I'm talking, I really enjoy it. But I think it's just like I think I'm a little bit, camera shy as well. I've never really got used to like talking in front of people. It's still difficult for me. I'm not really an outgoing person in public, but maybe that's that's got a lot to do with it. And it's also difficult if you're just streaming by yourself as well. If I've got like JT on or Dave from Slash Your Home Video, it's just easy to you're bouncing off people, and it's you can like hold back and just sit in the background for a few minutes and let other people talk. But if you're the only person in the stream and the focus is on you, it can be quite tricky. But it is what it is. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna, I don't stream maybe quite as often as what I did a year or two ago, but I'm still trying to keep it to like once every like 10 days or so. But yeah, definitely not going anywhere. So unfortunately. Yeah, Dan's live in just over an hour, I think. Yeah, love Life Force. Yeah, Life Force great. Matilda May Young. R.I.P. Norman J. Warren. Who's that, Dan? Should I know that name? Unseen Dawn is good. Am Head was in the original's better. Life Force pretty good. Saw it in the theatre. Yeah. Amber Heard who takes dumps in your bed, you mean? You will enjoy Abominable Snowman. Yeah, definitely. I'm actually looking forward to that. But that is definitely a win to watch, though. Definitely. Watch this. Wonder how many there's now. It's about now, Sean, probably about like 600 films. Yeah, Possum is very good. Okay, that definitely need to check that out. Creepy as fuck, but depressing. Okay. Oh, I'm almost dreading watching this film now. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't regard Dead Man's Shoes as a horror film, to be fair. Yeah, it's definitely a revenge thriller. I prefer the hand film over the Karloff one. It's another Central Gothic horror movie. Bob McCall, up Bob. Vampire Circus is my second favourite Hammer film, just edged out by Rasputin the Mad Monk. Hope Steak is doing okay. Haven't seen him in a while. I think he did a live stream last week. I think he did a live watch along. Yeah, he's been out. Someone's been busy. Yeah, after summer. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Corey's been putting out a few live streams with like guest hosts, and he's back again after the summer as well. Don't be camera shy. You're doing great. Good talk. You look great in camera. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. We Scousers aren't shy. No, we're not. We're definitely not shy, Bob. Although I can be a little bit. Dan and I are going to start a podcast once we move on to our West Hollywood apartment. Oh, definitely some live LA live streams coming in August, September. That would be nice. definitely. No, always attack the prey. Okay. Okay, let's get back into the final 10 movies. We've got City of the Dead, 1960, John Lowell and Moxie. I think Dan might have mentioned that just a minute ago. I can well gather the plot of this movie, although I've not seen it, but that looks pretty damn cool as an image. It's safe to say this is like a zombie movie, but I do like that image a lot. Number 59, we've got Eden. Eden Lake's this is the movie that I was calling out for to be in the top 10 of number in the top 50 movies. 59, really? Come on. Eden Lakes is just a stone cold classic. Maybe it being a more modern film that they're going against more modern movies in favor of like older stuff, but Eden Lakes just it's so good, man. I mean, it's just anybody who grew up in the UK in the last 30, 40, 50 years, they can well relate to the plot, and they do a really good job of like taking a couple of outsiders from the city who moved to like a suburban, a rural area, and they've kind of the way they've done what they've done well, which is quite a clever way. They've come from London, which is supposedly the urban melting pot, the urban jungle, where it's like it's more dangerous. There's more gang crime, there's more knife crime, gun crime, and they've moved to this supposed rural retreat, which is going to be like nice and lovely, but they don't bank on the local kids being just as dangerous and just as violent as the kids they've left behind in London. And things just go south from there onwards. And anybody who has grown up in the UK can well relate to like the kids in this film, because these kids are everywhere, feral kids who just like dangerous, nasty pieces of shit who will do anything, to get one over on you. That's why it works so well. But yeah, 59, way too low. This film should be a lot higher. 58, we've got Attack the Block. I'm not the biggest fan of Attack the Block. I like the premise of it. I like the tagline. Outer space meets inner city. You get this. It's a nice concept of, rather than aliens landing in some remote sort of corner of the world like Antarctica or the middle of nowhere USA. They've landed on a council estate in like South London, next to a tower block full of like streetwise kids who don't take shit. And that's kind of like a really good premise, because these kids are tooled up, they're ready for anything. But the whole film just doesn't really work for me. There's just something about it that I don't like the effects on the aliens. I think they look a bit cheesy, and I know they were on a budget, but they don't look particularly scary to me. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's the familiarity with just the whole UK thing. Maybe I would have preferred it if it had been an American movie, but in a lot of ways I like UK movies and the familiarity, but sometimes it doesn't work for me in certain scenarios, and I think this is one of those cases. But 658, at least it wasn't in the top 40 or something. Number 57, The Woman in Black, 2012, Daniel Radcliffe. A lot of people really love this film. I've not seen this. I've seen the TV movie from 89, which is really, really, I mean, if anybody's not seen the 89 version, I highly recommend it. I've not seen this version. A lot of people do swear by it and say, what a solid movie it is. For some reason, I've just never got around to watching it. I think Daniel Radcliffe just puts me off a little bit. Daniel Radcliffe just doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is. I don't think he's a particularly good actor either. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people do really, really seem to like this film. So, number 56, we've got In the Earth. It's a Ben. I love Ben Wheatley. Everything he's done up till now, what I've seen, I've loved. I've not seen this. This didn't get an awful lot of exposure when it came out. Yes, it's Ben Wheatley at his best. The horror of nature's vast, unthinking reclamation of mankind's conquered earth. The threat of contamination at the height of the pre-vaccine COVID. Isolation and madness. That definitely sounds interesting, but why I've never got round to watching this film, I have no idea. But I mean, Ben Wheatley's done. I mean, he's obviously going to be directing the Meg 2, which is just why? Where's that come from? That's just so left to centre. I can't get my head around that one. But yeah, Ben Wheatley is a great movie maker. That's someone I'm definitely going to have to check out. 55, Dracula, Prince of Darkness from 1966, Terence Fisher. I've not seen this film. It's Peter Cushing again, obviously. Christopher Lee. Obviously, everybody in the chat's probably seen this film. But yeah, Dracula's never been my thing. I'm going to just rectify that and just get into them. 54, Carry On Screaming. Probably lost on the American audience. The Carry On films, which ran from the 1950s to the 1970s, they're basically spoof movies, a bit like National Lampoons or Scary Movie. You know, every movie was a play on something. So Carry On Screaming was a play on, you know, slasher movie, horror movies, and they did a whole bunch of these comedies, and I loved them. I loved them for what they are. You know, anybody in the UK growing up in like the 1980s, 1990s, like my age, just grew up on these films. Politically incorrect, wonderfully politically incorrect. You couldn't make these films now, you know, full of TNA, you know. I think we used the word bawdy, Bawdy, which is a great like word to describe these films. But yeah, I mean, for any American who hasn't watched the Carry On movie, you probably wouldn't understand what was going on. It would take a while to get around to the concept of it. I think they're so uniquely British, but yeah, I would definitely recommend anyone checking out a Carry On movie. 1953, Mask of the Red Death, Roger Corman. 64. I've not seen this film. Like glorious artwork, glorious cinematography or picture, whatever you want to call it. That instantly makes you want to check the film out. That looks fantastic. I've not seen Mask of the Red Death, surprisingly enough. Roger Corman, though, I wouldn't put Roger Corman with that title, but 52, we got The Hound of the Baskervilles, obviously Peter Cushing. 1959, Terence Fisher again. I think I have seen this film back in the day, a long time ago. I've seen The Hound of the Baskervilles film. It's got to be this one. I remember enjoying it, but I'm assuming it was this film. I'm pretty sure it was. But it's Hound of the Baskervilles. Everybody knows the story. And number 51, we got His House. This was like a Netflix film. I thought this film was fucking shit. I didn't like this film whatsoever. It came out a couple of years ago. I just didn't do it for me. It's, you know, it's trying to be like a UK sort of take on like some sort of Conjuring or some shit. It just didn't work for me at all. Yeah, and it got rave reviews. I was like, are we watching the same movie? Didn't do it for me whatsoever. But anyway, that's number 100 to 51. Obviously, if you've not seen the first list, which was 50 to 1, I've done this back to front, haven't I? I've basically done this back to front. I didn't really think this through. But anyway, if you've not seen number 50 to number 1, that was a stream from a couple of weeks ago. Let's go back to the chat. Yeah, Lady Killer's pod coming. Oh, Lady Killer's pod coming soon. Oh, nice. Eden Lake is great, but it's an uncomfortable watch. Absolutely. Eden Lake is pretty accurate. Look at the UK. Feral teenagers running wild. Yeah, that's the problem with the UK. They haven't got guns, so they just run around with knives, stabbing people. So the gun crime isn't as bad as the US, but we just have a lot of knife crime because that's all they can get their hands on. It's a good double feature with Storage 24. I'm a big fan of Attack the Block. Keep open for a sequel. Expecting the director to get bigger stuff. They have talked about a sequel with, and even getting John Boyega back on board because John Boyega ain't doing a lot these days. So he'd probably be grateful of like the opportunity. I do like Storage 24 down, like the setting. The original Woman in Black has a jump scare that nearly killed me. That the 89 version is superb. I've seen both versions of the Woman in Black. I like them both, but I honestly prefer the remake. I had the original poster. Oh damn! Another year for Halloween 23. Let's yeah. Prince is the best Dracula film in my opinion. Christopher Lee at his best. Mask of Red Desk is fucking awesome. I definitely need to look at that one because that looks. Yeah. Oh, it was in your top 5. Oh, okay then. It just wasn't for me. Again, maybe it's maybe it's just the UK thing of it being a UK movie. I just didn't get on board with it, and maybe coming from like American perspective, it was maybe more appealing. I don't know. I just couldn't get on board with it. But that was Horrified.coms, or is it .co? I think it's Horrified.coms top 100 to 51 UK horror movies of all time. Definitely worth checking out that website if you're like it's a very well. The articles they write are really well put together. It's like a proper website like we had back in the 2000s before like social media just ruined good, writing online, because we don't really seem to have that anymore. It just seems to be a bunch of shit like Watch Mojo and shit. But they put out a lot of good stuff. They do a lot of good articles on a lot of like old school horror movies. So definitely check the website out. But that is 100 to 51. And I say check out 50 to number 1 from 2 weeks ago if you haven't. Everyone who jumped on board tonight in the chat, appreciate it. Go over to Dan's channel at 2 a.m, which is not 2 a.m. your time. I understand that. For an interview with the legendary Jasmine St. Clair. I will have to check that out tomorrow because it's way past my bedtime. But for everyone who jumped on board tonight, guys, thank you very much. I will see you sometime next week. Good night.